Okay, and just a second. It's Cody, right?
Yes.
And you know what I don't have here right now? I'll have to look for your ballot here, so.
Can I just start?
Wait just a second, and let me compliment the class, though, on being, you know, I don't see it here, but maybe, you turned it in, right?
Yes.
Well.
Might be under Cody.
Oh, there it is. You got like 3 or 4 names there.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Sneaky like that.
All right, thanks, Cody.
So I'm doing this, you guys are thinking like, this guy's really anxious, huh? Like, is it hot here or something? You know, what makes you think, you know, this guy's anxious, you know? It's probably my body language, right? Like I'm just sitting around like this, you know? What's going on with that guy's head, you know? But, I sound pretty calm when I'm talking, but my body's just like, you know, all my body language makes me look really anxious, you know? And that is a major part of communication, and that's what I want to talk about here. There's a lot of debates as to how much of a part in communication nonverbal communication takes, but some people, like anthropologist Ray Birdwhistle, say it's 65%, whereas psychologist Albert Mehrabian believes it's 93%. And both of these guys are pioneers as far as the study of nonverbal communication goes, which is relatively a new study. Didn't start till about the 70s or so. But I think this can relate to all of us because it's a crucial part of public speaking, and that's what we're all here to do, right, is to develop public speaking skills or get GE credits, but we're still getting the skills. But, so it's going to help us out a lot just to understand how important it is to have competence towards nonverbal communication, because it's going to help us a lot in all forms of our life. You know, it's going to help us in social settings while we're trying to make friends or just to network as far as jobs may go. Cultural settings, if we ever plan to travel, or some of us, you know, we travel a lot on a regular basis for family reasons or whatever. We might see parts of our family that are accustomed to different cultures than we are. And in many parts of our adult life, as far as like jobs go, and even raising children, you know. So I believe that this is going to have a lot of value to us to make sure that we know what we're looking for as far as nonverbal communication goes when we're talking to people. And also to make sure that we're aware of how our body speaks for us when we're talking, you know. And it helps out a lot of social settings because people, it's commonly held belief that there are 3 forms of nonverbal communication as written by Michael Argyle in his book, Nonverbal Communication and Human Interaction. There's nonverbal communication of attitudes and emotions and manipulation of the immediate social situation, nonverbal communication as a support and complement of verbal communication, and a nonverbal communication as a replacement for language. So those are 3 very complex uses of nonverbal communication that all of us do any given moment of every day when we're talking. And really this tends to make it or break it as far as social situations go. Because you could be talking to someone and it's like, you ever like know that guy that's in the group, it's like everything he says is nice, but at the end of the day, like, guy's kind of an asshole. He's kind of, you know, and it's like, yeah, like, and 90% of the time it's probably because of like the way that he's saying stuff or how he carries himself, like, well, that guy's just really cocky or whatever it is, you know. But, you know, he might be like a nice guy with what he says, he might compliment you or whatever, but he's still just kind of, you know, get away from me, you know. And as well, this is also greatly affected by the technology that we use nowadays, because a lot of professionals agree that just the use of like text messaging like we do with instant messaging and Facebook for communication has greatly diminished the value of nonverbal communication between people, because we no longer how to communicate on that, no longer know how to communicate on that level. We kind of use it just text and reading. I think that's also led us to overinterpret the words that we use with each other rather than the body language. You know, we tend to think everything's very literal because we're used to seeing the text on a page rather than hearing it and reading someone as they speak to you. And this is also a great barrier in cultural differences. Like for instance, I work at a Walgreens, a retail store, and I have a regular customer. She's like the nicest old lady in the world, but she's Arabic. She barely moved here like 10 years ago. And she'll be handing me all this stuff from her cart. And eventually she'll just be overwhelmed because she's one of those crazy couponers. She'll just be overwhelmed and she'll hand me something with the left and excuse the left. Excuse the left. Excuse the left. And then after one day I handed her change to her left hand. She was furious with me. Sorry. I don't even know what I did for 5 seconds, you know, but and that's a big deal in those cultures, you know, because they use that for, you know, back in that area, you know. Very big deal. There's also a lot of small differences. You know, in Chinese and Asian cultures, smiling is usually a sign of pain or frustration or anger, whereas here it's obviously a sign of happiness. Some cultures point with their lips because fingers are rude. I know my brother, when he was in the military in the National Guard in Saudi Arabia, he was doing a convoy through a city, through Riyadh, and he did this to somebody and took a shoe to the head doing this. So, yeah. It's very, very, I know a lot of us plan on traveling a lot of times in our lives, you know, and we really got to make sure that when we're going to go somewhere, especially, you know, being Americans, we're already not very nice guys, you know, we're not going to be seen very well. So we got to make sure that we understand the culture of where we're going into, and make sure that we understand the impact of these differences within the different cultures on our planet, because body language is, even though it's a universal thing as far as purpose, culturally the actual symbols of body language can mean completely different things, and this really helps out a lot in just adult life scenarios. You know, all of us know that when you're going into, you know, an interview, if you're sitting there just kind of like, no eye contact, you know, just looking at the ground, you're probably not going to get the job, you know. There's somebody in there that is going to be way more confident than you, and there's someone in there that's going to just be able to communicate better as far as body language goes, and they're probably going to get the job even if they might not be as like academically credentialed as you may be. And Sarah Ipatenko of Livestrong.com, in her article, the effects of negative nonverbal communication on children, also talks about the effects that parents can have on children without even realizing it. You know, you might be saying what you want to say to your children, or the things that they might need to hear, but your body language might be saying something else. And a lot of times those type of cues can lead to a loss of self-esteem, a loss of a perceived lack of support, and also it could just also leave them vulnerable because there's a lack of role models in that department, so they may go on into their adult life without the foundation that nonverbal communication is a very important part of communication as a whole. So overall, there's just a lot of things that we need to understand about nonverbal communication, and there's a strong argument as to why there is a very big lack of competence as far as nonverbal communication in today's society, and definitely our generation, and why that is definitely a bad thing. And I think that we all need to just be a little more aware of it, especially going into our adult lives. I think it could help us out a lot. So, thank you.
Okay. And for comments, we have,
I liked your examples. Your
Yeah.
examples are good. You started off really, really fast. You talked like really, really fast, and like towards like the very end, that's when you started to like relax more. Your little hand and little card thing was kind of distracting at times. I was paying attention to that. You kind of jumped around a little bit as well. I was scared that you weren't going to use another source because I know you started off with one, and I thought you weren't going to use another one, but you did at the end. But what kind of got me was that you started talking about parents and kids in the beginning, and then you started going off into your other examples, and then you ended your with your last source about parenting and kids again. So maybe if you would have, you know, kept that together in a way instead of like separated, because it kind of just like it felt like you were jumping to different, like, I don't know how to explain it. But you get what I'm saying. And but yeah, overall it was pretty cool. I liked your examples and stuff. So.